Just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to the 297th episode of the Alfa Insurance Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. It is finally Friday. The playoffs kick off today, and we'll also have some big games on Saturday, including our guest, Umbrah Brown, Central-Carroll's head coach. They're going to play Hapeville Charter tomorrow. It looks like pretty much all of 4A is going to be tomorrow. A lot of afternoon games. We'll have all those scores, of course. And then tonight we'll be live from the Stockyard for Cass at Kell. Should be an outstanding atmosphere and game. As you know, the 2023 football season started at Kell High School with the Wednesday doubleheader. We saw North Atlanta play Johns Creek. They looked outstanding in that. And then we saw Kell and Parkview. We returned to Kell for the big GAC game. They won that one, clinched their region, and now we're back. So I'm excited. The third time, every game has been exciting and thrilling. And I think this is a very intriguing matchup. So I was looking for the article that previews it from the MDJ, and for some reason I couldn't find it when I typed it in, but Rob Vaca tweeted out a photo of him eating breakfast, and you can see the article on the screen behind it. So I do have a subscription for MDJ. I love Adam Carrington, but I'm going to steal this off of Rob's tweet. All right, so here's what it's saying about the big game. So they've met 4 previous times. Kell is 4-0. The last time they met was, it looks like, the 2019 season. They were in the same region, I think, back then, but they've also had some playoff clashes. The prediction, this is very interesting, according to the computer models, and it looks like the guys at the MDJ, they're predicting Kell 31, Cass 10. I was thinking it might be a little more of a shootout. This is a Cass team that put up 52 points against Calhoun in their last outing, so I don't know if 10 points in a playoff game is going to be the result. That would certainly be interesting, but maybe that factors in that Kell shut them out last time. But here is the article from the great Adam Carrington. All right, on paper, everything seems to be running smoothly for Kell football. Another key, I mean, this is a team early on in the season. They have Bryce Clavin for the first game, and then he goes and plays baseball with the U.S. national team for about 4 or 5 weeks. Despite that, the Longhorns have won 9 straight. He's obviously back now, and they've won 9 straight games by 10 or more points. They went undefeated in Region 6 en route to becoming a number 1 seed heading into the state playoffs. With that said, Kell does not want to appear too comfortable entering round 1 of the postseason. And that was my key talking about this matchup on Monday. Kell's playing with a lot of confidence, but they cannot feel like the favorites in this. They got to have that 1 week at a time attitude, not get ahead of themselves, because this is a very scrappy, talented, and versatile Cass team. All right, so Kell will be hosting Cass, which has a 500 record, but that record could be deceiving. This is what Coach May had to say. They're super talented. We're going to have to protect the football, win the turnover battle, and play well on special teams. If we do that, we have a chance. That's a great point. I feel like in this game, when you got Peyton Zachary returning kicks for Kell, you got all the playmakers for Cass, you're going to see a lot of short kicks, maybe even some onside. And then I think this was a trend that I mentioned last year in the playoffs. You're going to see teams go for it on fourth down more and more. I think even in a 4th and 4, 4th and 5 situation, in that shady field area where sometimes you would want to punt it, these coaches have their special plays in their back pocket. They have experienced senior playmakers. I think they're going to be aggressive and try to keep these drives going. That was the key last year in the Walton win over Buford, just all the success they had on fourth down. And in the playoffs, this is going to be 4-down territory for sure. All right, so the winner of Friday's game will take on either Loganville or Mays in the second round. A Kell victory would mean round 2 would be at home. The Colonels have been streaky this season, but they're coming off a clutch 52-29 win over Calhoun to end the regular season. They also took Cartersville to overtime before coming up short. However, they lost decisively to Hiram and Dalton. Cass got off to an 0-2 start because of injuries, May said. Then it got on track with 4 wins in a row before hitting a 3-game skid during Region 7A play. The Longhorns will have to contend with defensive back and Region 7 Athlete of the Year, Sokovie White, who is also a Georgia commitment. He's the big play receiver, and he is very dangerous at just going up and getting the ball and then turning catches into touchdowns. They have to be aware of defensive lineman and 7A Defensive Player of the Year, Caden Ellis, as well as defensive back and App State commit and Liberty-bound Devin Henderson. For Kell, Bryce Clavin has been solid down the stretch. He's coming off a good performance in the Longhorns' 48-0 win over Chattahoochee. He threw for 264 yards and 5 touchdowns, also ran for 49 yards on 9 carries. This season, he's got 19 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. He's also run for 4 touchdowns and 343 yards. Running backs Tyreek Green and Mooney Gibson continue to be a solid 1-2 punch in the backfield for the Longhorns with 10 touchdowns apiece. Kyle Vaca leads the team in receiving with 844 yards and 11 touchdowns. On defense, Tyshawn Nat has 56 tackles and 10 sacks. We still have some things to work on, May said. Our role players have to play the roles to a higher standard. In the playoffs, mistakes are amplified. Our key players are continuing to play well, but our role players need to step up. Great point right there. We know what the star players can do for both these teams. It's going to be about the full 11-man effort, snap after snap, and should be an outstanding game. So be sure to tune in. It'll be 8 o'clock. We'll have updates of the other games throughout the action on the scroller. We'll have halftime coverage from around the state, and then obviously post-game we'll be updating the brackets. The other game we're going to be showcasing is going to be the Tucker and Statesboro game. I think that one's going to be very interesting too. Tucker is coming off a heartbreaking loss to rival Arabia Mountain for the region title. They still get to host. They're going to be playing a good Statesboro team, and Najee was talking about this yesterday. Tucker's quarterback, Jamar Graham, is just absolutely massive. Max Preps has him listed at 6'5", 220, but how tall do you think he is? Isn't he up at like 6'8" now? I think he's like 6'8", 270. He was a quarterback, as Najee pointed out, at Cedar Grove. He went over to Tucker, and he's grown like 4 inches. He looks like an offensive tackle slash starting center for the basketball team. He's got a great arm, and you got to think like short yardage, the red zone, he certainly is going to be a factor. He's truly a special athlete. He can throw on the run, and I think he's an X factor. So it should be a fun game, and we'll definitely have that one covered in our score ticker throughout the night. All right, so let's look at Central-Carroll real quick before we talk to Coach Brown. I think the interesting part about them, last season they were led by Darius Smiley, who's now the head coach at Sandy Creek. He went over there after Brett Garvin retired following their state championship. And anyone that followed Central-Carroll last year knew that they were a tremendous team running the football. They had their freshman phenom back, Jonas Walton, rushed for like 1,600 yards. But then you knew that they were bringing in great quarterback play. And so they're a team that was already great at running the ball. Now they have the passing attack going, and that's really what's led to this 10-0 season. And their region was challenging. You had Cedartown, Northwest Whitfield's a great team, and then they had to battle past Heritage, Catoosa in the finals. And let me just pull this up. And so this season, through the 10 games, they've scored 405 points, so it's 40 points per game. I've been covering Class 4A for the last decade, and let's just go back to 2016. During that year, Central-Carroll scored just 61 points the entire season. They were 0-10, and honestly, that was probably ranks as the lowest scoring offense in the state. Despite that, there were a lot of seasons around that time. They were in the same region as Trevor Lawrence, the Troops, and so they always had a great defense, great athletes. The offense, though, was the missing ingredient. They boosted that up in 2017. That was Darius Smiley's first year, averaged 18 points a game. They improved that to 23 points per game in 2020, 27 points per game in 2021, and then Coach Smiley's last season was this past year. They were at like 35 points per game. Now they're at 40. The defense has still been great, giving up just 18 points per game. So what's going on at Central-Carroll is the real deal. They are a legit contender. They play well on both sides of the ball, and they are still young. So I think they're just going to be even better in the future. Nonetheless, this is a big opportunity for them in the playoffs this year, getting that first seed and trying to build that foundation to have a successful 2023 and then compete for state titles in the years to come. They're going to play Hapeville Charter on Saturday, which is tomorrow. Let's look at some other big storylines in Cobb County. The Walton Raiders, another team that is 10-0. They're going to start their playoff journey tonight against Mountain View. They improved to a 10-0 with a 46-12 win over Wheeler last week. What was interesting about that game, Walton was trailing 16-14 at the half before Walton got the 28 unanswered points. Coach Bruner said, "We're just happy to be 1-0 after this week. Coach Love, that's Brian Love over at Wheeler, has done a great job over there. They had a good game plan against us, and they had us on the ropes a little bit in the first half, and they put us in a bad spot. But I'll say about this group, they responded. We hope to continue that into the playoffs." So it's the first round. We've seen Walton look good every single week, but obviously they're going to want to come out, get off to a faster start. Mountain View does have some big-time prospects, particularly on that defensive line, but I think just with that Walton depth and all their playmakers, I think they are ready to go. And then we saw last week, it was the first time since the Grayson game that Makari Bodiford took double-digit carries, so I think he's kind of been resting through the season. He had such a phenomenal junior season. He's already committed to play at Memphis, one of the best backs in the state, and a guy that's capable of taking 25 carries if they need him to. He took 20-plus against Buford last year. I think he's going to be the big factor for Walton in this playoff run. And then obviously the defense has been huge for Walton. All right, so then elsewhere in Cobb County, there's some other interesting storylines. You got Osborne is going to have to play Mill Creek. That's a very tough draw, but this is their first ever playoff appearance. And so, yeah, you're going up against one of the best teams in the state, the defending state champs, but that's going to be a good opportunity for them to see where their team stacks up, and then they'll have much to build off of following that result. All right, and then North Cobb is going to play Collins Hill. I think that should be an interesting matchup too. Collins Hill, I think they have underachieved a little bit this year, but they have looked very competitive in certain games. They played Mill Creek very well. They have the ability to match up with certain teams that maybe if the passing game's not going, you're going to struggle more against them because they're stout against the run. So big opportunity for North Cobb and Collins Hill to try to pull off an upset. But North Cobb has been phenomenal. Another Cobb matchup that will be a tough one, Harrison. They got the number 4 seed out of Region 3, and now they're going to have to travel to Carrollton. So we'll see what Braylon Ford and the Hoyas can do to try to come out of that one with a victory. They're in the playoffs for the 8th straight year. They obviously aren't happy about getting that number 4 seed, but it is a very talented region, and they've, in all those losses they had this year, they were very close games. Marietta, another tough Cobb matchup coming up. They're going to have to go on the road as the number 3 seed against Westlake. So another tremendous task for a Cobb County team. I think Westlake has been outstanding, the number 2 seed behind Carrollton in Region 2. Marietta has played one of the toughest schedules in the state this year, but they haven't been able to beat the top brass. So this is a big test for them. We'll see if they can pull it out. And then the other big storyline, I think, is McEachern. How good is this Indians team? They started off the season, I think, 0-4. They had the big win over Valdosta, who, upon a closer look at the Wildcats this year, they have been really solid and have potential to go deep in the playoffs, I feel like. But McEachern and Coach Reed, I think they have a different type of energy driving them at this point. Just being able to turn their season around, get the top seed. It reminds me a little bit of Grayson, struggling early in some games and then hitting the next level. I think if they come out, play with a lot of confidence, keep building and improving, McEachern has a chance to have success in the playoffs. And you got to factor in, McEachern was so mad about missing out on the playoffs last year that they really did a good job of responding and getting that bid. But let's go ahead. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be joined by Coach Brown on the other side.
Hey, does it matter if this leaks?
It don't matter to me. Can't see it from my house.
Illegal use of hands, improper training.
GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com has 14 different highly skilled trades with tuition-free training in our certified apprenticeship programs to train you the right way. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
All right, welcome back. So now we are going to welcome on Umbrah Brown, Central-Carroll's head coach. Hey, Coach, how's it going?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on. We're excited to have you and talk about this season. First, though, how did you get the job this year? Did you expect to be at Central-Carroll? And then just what did it mean to return to your alma mater?
Well, honestly, man, I was a head coach at Paulding County last year, and we finished 6-5 and got a playoff berth for the first time in a few years there. And it was my first year as a head coach there, and I was kind of focused on being where my feet were, and then as you mentioned, man, being an alma mater, that being my alma mater, you always kind of keep your ear to the ground with things, and Coach Smiley decided to move on, and again, I didn't just aggressively pursue it, but got a phone call about it, and then one thing led to another, man, and God placed me here. So that's kind of how it all happened. Yeah,
and Paulding County, you mentioned a good 6-5 season, but a lot of buzz was surrounding Central-Carroll the season before you got there. They were outstanding, running the ball. Every coach I talked to that played them was raving about their athletes, how good they were going to be in the future. So what do you see just the potential of this year's team and then just moving forward?
Well, we knew we had tremendous skill coming back. Most of those kids were young, as you mentioned. We had more all region players returning in this particular region than any other team in the region. And so we knew we had a chance to be pretty good. It was just a matter of getting things flipped around and getting the terminology changed and really just sinking your teeth in on getting them to learn how to do things a new way. That was the main thing. But we knew, particularly at the skill position, that we were going to be pretty good had we stayed healthy, and kind of came along there. So.
Yeah, and then as the season started, obviously Cedartown won that region last year. They won by a ton of points over every opponent. They had just a superstar senior-led team, but they start to lose some games early. When did it kind of get the sense in your locker room that you guys can win this region, the goals are in front of you, and just being able to run through that Region 7?
Well, our kids were confident really from the summer on. We saw a lot of tough opponents this summer, and really kind of got battle tested early. And then going into the season, you open up with Redan, you finish up with, week 2, you play Bowden, a really good Bowden team. And I think as we started gelling, our kids went into that first region game, because that's what, Cedartown was our first region game, and we were coming off a bye, and so we knew after playing a really good Northgate team close and getting the win on the road right before that bye week, our kids went into that first region game really confident, and they knew what was on the line because we respect Cedartown. We know how good they are and how good they've been, and to be honest, we didn't really look at what they had done earlier. They had lost some really close games to some really good teams, but we knew they were really physical and were going to be well coached. But I think our kids, they were confident from the summer on, and then as we kind of got off to a pretty good start, I think that confidence just grew, and then obviously after you play them, you play Cedartown, you win at home, you get a big win, that does nothing but boost that confidence even more, and so that kind of catapulted us into the rest of the year.
Yeah, and at that point, you guys improved to 6-0. So, what did that mean for your freshman quarterback, J.R. Davis, getting that big region win? Just outstanding Cedartown program, just a game that really had that high stakes in it.
Harris, J.R. Harris.
What did I say?
I tell you this, Davis, but honestly, he don't care. He's a baller, man. He don't get into all that. But I'll say this: the kid is a gamer. I mean, he's a gamer. We knew that early on. There was a lot of high expectations for him going into the year, and to be quite honest, there was a lot on his shoulders. But we kind of felt like he mentally could handle it. And throughout the course of the season, his confidence has grown. He's played better within the system. He's a kid where the game kind of slowed down to him as we got deeper into the year, to where, last week, on game 10, he played his best game. But I think it means a lot. He won the locker room over, and the kid, has made play after play after play, including that Cedartown game where, the first play made was actually on a punt, or we had a fake punt. He took a shot, and I think that moment was the moment where, okay, we have something pretty special in this kid because he is a gamer, and so a lot of freshmen don't really have that maturity, early on. But JR he's been awesome.
You said he won the locker room, so that kind of factors into the intangibles, but just in terms of his play, what do you see as like the it factors? Just the touch on the football, the clutch throws, just seeing the field. What about him just stands out?
It's really his ability to create. We put a lot on the quarterback. We read the second and third level, and we give him a lot of freedom in the RPO game. But it's really his ability to create when things break down. And as I always say, the quarterback's got to be able to keep you clean. When things don't go well in the protection, or when the look changes, post snap, or it could be a bad snap or whatever it may be, he's really good at keeping us clean and getting us back to a positive play. And I don't think he gets enough credit to what he can do with his legs. I mean, he's a kid that he can run. I would consider him a dual threat. And so he's created a lot of big plays and big play opportunities for our other guys because he's been able to buy time, because he's been able to keep us clean and create. That would probably be something I'd say is probably his best attribute.
Yeah. And so with Harris at quarterback, he's able to create, as you said. Have you seen the receivers, though, like not give up on plays and be able to find openings and really just keep the offense moving in those situations where he's maybe scrambling or improvising?
100%. And that's that continuity that we've developed over the course of the season. It hadn't always been there. It's gotten better the last few weeks. Xylee Person, Marshawn Horton, Avery Tanner, like Griffin Bass, like all those guys they kind of understand that when those plays break down, they do work with them. As a matter of fact, two of his touchdown throws last week were kind of improvised plays where guys just found that space and kept playing when the play broke down, and JR is going to keep his eyes downfield and make it happen.
That's awesome. And then in terms of the backfield, we know Jonas Walton had a great freshman season. This is his sophomore year. He's obviously bringing an elite skill set to the backfield. What have you seen just from him throughout this year?
Jonas, first off, you won't find a kid that works any harder than Jonas. I mean, a lot of times we have to somewhat pull him back just to make sure he stays healthy, because the kid will work himself to death, man. He's, a 4.0 kid, so he's super smart, knows every position on our offense. And a fun fact is, if we ever get down to a third quarterback, he's actually the third-string quarterback. I think a lot of people probably don't know that, but no, one of the things with Jonas, man, that makes him so great is he's super patient. He's a strong runner. He understands leverage and body lean and how to kind of run through those arm tackles. And then the other thing I would say is he has phenomenal contact balance. I mean, there's plays where, he's shedding the block or shedding a defender all while trying to keep his balance, and he ends up, if for whatever reason, the kid just don't go down. I mean, it's incredible. It's nothing but God-given ability, man. But those would be three things I would say probably stand out the most with Jonas.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been a defensive guy previous in terms of coaching?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And so I think I saw a quote. You said Ty Brewer's the alpha of the defense. Talk about him a little bit, and then what else you've seen from this defensive group.
Well, Ty Brewer is unequivocally the leader of this, not just the defense, but really of the team. You know, as he goes, we go, as I like to say. He's another kid, man, that's been a staple here for a long time. And, you know, he plays our Mike linebacker for us, and he makes a lot of plays. I think right now he's actually second behind Nate Horsley in tackling. But Ty is kind of that glue that keeps us kind of put together. You know, when your best players and the players that have the most influence, you know, are your hardest work, sink their teeth into what you're trying to do, I think you'll have a chance pretty good. And Ty has definitely done that. He's been that since January. You know, we can go all the way back to January when I first got here, and we met. He's been that leader. This locker room kind of falls behind. Really, he's played since he was a freshman. You know, he started as a freshman, and so it's a kid that's got a lot of football in him. So he's really been leading really the last 4 years. But this year, I kind of challenged him to kind of take that to another step. And he's been huge for us, man. Huge.
That's awesome. And then, obviously, I mean, this regular season had to have been a lot of fun just going out there, getting these big wins. You played in a lot of tough games. I saw after the Sonoraville game, it looked like on the way back, the entire team stopped at Buc-ee's, and I know that's stressful for like a family of four. So how did you guys handle that zoo?
Well, look, you just hit it on the head. It was definitely a zoo. You know, it was something. One of my assistant coaches, Coach Horsley, it was something that he suggested. You know, and my only stipulation was we had to win the game. You know, we ain't stopping and getting treats if we don't handle business. So, you know, and it was something that we felt like would be awesome for our kids. And, you know, with that long of a road trip, region game, we felt like it'd be much needed after that, you know, travel. And so, yeah, man, we pulled up and had the buses parked. And, you know, we got off. I set a timer and told them they got 20 minutes. I know that's probably virtually impossible for some people to go through Buc-ee's and get what they need in 20 minutes, but we accomplished it, and so it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, that looked like so much fun, and it's what it's all about. So I mentioned you guys are playing tomorrow, a Saturday game, Hapeville Charter, really talented team. What have you seen just looking at their film?
Well, the first thing that pops off the tape for me is, you know, they're extremely athletic. You kind of knew you was going to get that even before you watched them, just because you've kind of known Hapeville Charter for being a good program under Coach Gordon. But that's the first thing that pops. You know, they got athletes on both sides of the football. They play pretty straightforward on defense. They don't try to give you a lot of fluff and a lot of things that are going to try to confuse you. But they play with phenomenal effort. They play really hard. You know, they got two really good corners. They got, you know, really good skilled players that can go get the ball. They give you multiple formations. And so, you know, we got to be really sound in what we're doing and contain them for sure.
Yep. And, yeah, they are a unique team. They played a really tough schedule. They were the only team to beat Stevenson out of that region. They get to the number 4 seed. So it should be a really great matchup. Right. And then what else have you seen just this year in Class 4A, just with the quality of opponents, just the teams you saw in your region?
Yeah, you know, well, we knew going into our region, you know, Cedartown had kind of been the big dogs and, you know, state runner-up last year. And Coach Abrams have kind of, you know, established that team and that program as somebody that you always got to kind of look at, especially if they're in your region. We knew Northwest had put up a lot of points, Northwest Whitfield in our region, and then Heritage was really well coached by Coach Slaughter. And we knew, you know, like last week, that was going to be a dogfight, especially when they had a lot to play for, and we did as well. And then when you look across, I'll be honest with you, man, looking across the state, I don't know that we've paid too much attention with what's going on across the state. We've been so focused on what we have to do I think it kind of required every little bit of our attention to take care to handle business. But obviously, you know the perennial powerhouses. I mean, Benedictine's been really good. You know, they haven't lost a game, and although I think they've played in some pretty close games, I think that's just a result of a very tough region. We saw Spalding early in the year. You know, we scrimmaged them in the fall, or this fall, and kind of got a chance to see what they were about. And I know that they've improved tremendously since we've played them. And obviously, you know, you look at LaGrange. We saw them this past summer. I actually had them pegged to be one of the better teams in this classification. After I had saw them this summer, I thought they were really good. Wayne County's another school that I know does a good job. And I think they play Spalding, if I'm not mistaken, this week or tomorrow. But, man, like I said, man, to be told, man, we haven't really, you know, kept our eye on a ton. Like, we knew kind of what bracket we would get put in, what quadrant we would get put in. But outside of that, man, we try to just be where our feet are and really focus on who we got that particular week, and then hit the reset button and do it again. I know that's probably boring coach speak, but it's really the truth. Like that's kind of how we operate, you know, because at the end of the day, if you don't take care of business, it really doesn't matter what the rest of the state's doing. Don't have an opportunity, you know. So we like where we are right now, and just got to take care of what's in front of us.
Awesome. Coach Brown, thank you so much for coming on. Good luck tomorrow. Can't wait to see the team get this playoff run started.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right, so there goes Coach Brown. And my bad, JR. I was thinking, I guess, J.D. Davis, Grayson's coach, J.R. Harris. I got you. And I'm excited to finally get to talk to Coach Brown, and that will be seared in my memory now. I will not mess that up. But let's take one more quick break. We'll be back on the other side.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
All right, welcome back. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about Class 4A, and that's where Central-Carroll will be. They're on the top right bracket, but I'm going to start with the top left, go over some of these storylines to watch for, and once again, a lot of these games are going to be tomorrow throughout the day. All right, so in the upper left, you have Troop against Cairo. Both of those teams are coming off losses in their season finale. Troop lost to LaGrange, pretty big, and then Bainbridge blew out Cairo. So both those teams coming off losses, but have been in the top 10 throughout the season. And this is going to be a rematch of last year. In the second round, Troop won that one 26-17. So should be a good matchup to watch. Directly below them, that's the one that Coach Brown talked about. Wayne County at Spalding. Both those teams are outstanding running the ball. For Spalding, though, it's their senior quarterback, Kurt Clark. He is a true dual threat, a great athlete and playmaker, leading that offense against a Wayne County team that's just going to want to be physical and just run the ball throughout the game. And that is Class 4A's leading rusher for Wayne County, Matthew Fuller. He has 1,800 yards and 24 touchdowns. The other two matchups in that pretty loaded quadrant are going to be Heritage Catoosa at Westminster, and then North Hall at Stockbridge. Westminster lost to Lovett last year in the first round in a heartbreaker, and they have not advanced past the first round, I believe, since 2018. So they're trying to kind of break that drought. And then Heritage Catoosa, they've made it to the playoffs each of the last 8 seasons, but haven't advanced past the first round. So that's a big storyline there. Which one of those teams is finally going to get past that first round? All right, then North Hall and Stockbridge. Let's see what I have there. Stockbridge, they swept their region for the second straight year. They've won 8 straight since dropping games to Douglas County and Colquitt. And then I looked at what has Stockbridge done in the 8 games since those 2 losses to out of classification teams. They have won by 43 points per game. That's how good Stockbridge has been. All right, so below them in the bottom left quadrant, you have Westover at LaGrange, Baldwin at Benedictine, Holy Innocents at Cedartown, and then Pace Academy at North Oconee. I think that's another quadrant you could argue is the strongest. I think the main argument for that would be you have the number 1 and number 2 team both in it with Benedictine and North Oconee. They would potentially match in the quarterfinals. Holy Innocents at Cedartown, that will be a physical game. Both those teams run the ball 80 to 90% of their plays. Pace Academy is going to have to try to stop a North Oconee team that has all the experience, physicality. I think they play as good a football each week as any team in the state. They've been pretty perfect this season. All right, and then on the top right side, that's the quadrant that Central-Carroll is going to be in. You have Lovett at Madison County. Madison County is going to be hosting its first ever playoff game. The winner is going to take on either Hapeville or Central-Carroll. Central-Carroll, obviously, first ever perfect season. All those young playmakers trying to build that foundation. You got Westside making a 3 seed at New Hampstead. New Hampstead has been one of the top passing attacks in 4A this year. Had some big upsets, and getting the number 2 seed above Burke County and Wayne County is quite impressive. And then you have Shaw at Stars Mill. Stars Mill missed the playoffs last year at 7-3, and now they are the top seed. A similar storyline to McEachern in 7A. Then in the bottom right, you're going to have East Forsyth playing its first ever playoff game against Luella. Northwest Whitfield against top seed Stevenson. Big time matchup between Burke County and Perry. Who's going to be quarterbacking for Perry? Is Burke County going to be able to stop Ahmad Gordon, who once Colton Ginn went down, their quarterback? They've relied on him to lead the offense, basically going from 120 rushing yards per game to about 220 because they lost the passing element. So will Perry and Coach Smith be able to adjust to balance that out against a great Burke County team? And then the final one, Trinity Christian, the number 4 seed at Bainbridge, should be an interesting quadrant. But I think that top left and bottom left are very strong. All right, so I'm going to look at my top 30 games for tonight that will be updated throughout the broadcast. All right, Archer at Valdosta. Valdosta, the number 2 seed. That's a very long road trip for that Archer team that we've seen play quite a bit. I'm interested in that one just to see how good Valdosta is. We've seen Archer multiple times. We know what they're good at. Let's see what Valdosta is able to do in that one. Cambridge at Hiram. I think that's a similar one. We've seen all the teams that have played Cambridge this year. We have not televised a Hiram game. We saw them have a lot of success in that crowded region. Let's see what they do round 1 in the playoffs. Carver, Atlanta at Stevens County. A really great 3A matchup. I think it's going to come down to Adam Shealy, Carver, Atlanta's quarterback, leading his team and making some big plays. They have been able to get off to strong starts, but sometimes they lack the depth, and teams have been able to come out strong in the second half and pull away. So they need a 4-quarter effort against one of the best teams in 3A. Collins Hill at North Cobb, we already talked about that one. Can North Cobb's offense be balanced? We know they can run the ball well, but Collins Hill is going to want to stop that run, force them to pass. Playmakers for North Cobb have to step up. Creekview at Blessed Trinity should be a really great matchup. Creekview is the number 3 seed behind Rome and Sequoia. They lost a very close game to Sequoia to have to go on the road. And then Blessed Trinity is battle-tested. They've recently had great wins over Alpharetta. They beat Calhoun early in the season, and they've just been playing solid both sides of the ball. I like their pass rush. I like their defense, and they just got to come out focused and should be able to get the home win. Dalton at Greater Atlanta Christian. I think that is a very intriguing matchup. And then we'll also just say a lot about how good is this region with GAC and Kell and Cambridge versus how good is the Dalton, Cass, Hiram region. All right, Decatur at Ware County. We're going to be updating that one, obviously, with the reigning state champs. See how they look in their first round matchup. Douglas at Oconee County. I think that's a very distinct contrast of styles. You have Oconee County, a great defensive team. They aren't really explosive. They try to just control time of possession, win clock, versus an explosive Douglas team. Ton of great athletes and firepower that are going to play both sides of the ball. Can Douglas just overwhelm them with their athleticism? All right, Flowery Branch at Creekside. Flowery Branch has had a great passing offense this season. They earned a playoff spot above teams like Clark Central and Winder Barrow. They are battle tested, but let's see how Creekside looks. I have them number 1 in 5A, and so all the Cass fans and Kell fans are obviously going to want to see this 5A matchup unfold. All right, Habersham Central at Douglas County. Let's see Douglas County in their first playoff game. They've been one of probably the hottest team in the state this season. They seem to just be getting better and better every single week. They never took the foot off the gas after that big win over Hughes and have just been cruising. All right, Harrison at Carrollton. We're going to keep a close eye on that and see what Carrollton's able to do round 1, see if there's any intriguing storylines moving forward with that one. All right, Hebron Christian against Cedar Grove. Definitely want to see what the Saints look like out of this first round. How is the defense going to come out? That will be the big thing to watch. Houston County at North Atlanta. One of the best matchups in the state regardless of classifications. North Atlanta had its best ever regular season finish. Houston County came out of the toughest region in 6A as the number 3 seed. A win for North Atlanta would be absolutely huge. It'd be the biggest win in program history. All right, Jonesboro at Glen Academy. I think the key in this one, Glen Academy has had great success with turnovers. They had 3 defensive touchdowns last week. Jonesboro has a ton of athletes, but if they can play physical, force some turnovers, that could be the difference. But I think it's a very even matchup. Glen Academy was one of the few teams that was able to beat their rival Brunswick this season. Lambert against Peachtree Ridge. That is a great matchup. Peachtree Ridge, of course, was in that 3-way tie with North Gwinnett and Norcross. They ended up getting the number 2 seed. They're going to host Lambert, who got the number 3 seed because of a loss to Milton and West Forsyth. But they've got a tough football team, a great running back, and they're going to have their hands full, though, with this Peachtree Ridge team and all of those weapons they have and that great secondary. They're going to have to find something in the passing game to balance out their offense. All right, Marietta at Westlake, we'll be watching that. Monroe area at Sandy Creek. Mountain View at Walton. We're going to be covering the North Forsyth at Hughes game. See how Hughes looks week 1 against a solid North Forsyth team. North Gwinnett at West Forsyth. I really like that matchup too. You got just this incredible balanced North Gwinnett offense with Brian Hall at quarterback going up against a West Forsyth team with experienced linebackers that can fly around the field. It's a great matchup. All right, Northside Warner Robins at Marist. Another big one. Marist won their region. Northside Warner Robins got the number 4 out of what I already said was the toughest region in 6A. All right, Ola at Harris County. Can the number 4 seed Mustangs score a win over a Harris County team that has big wins this season? They beat Sandy Creek. They are a great football team, but I just want to see how they stack up. Osborne at Mill Creek. We'll be watching that to see how Mill Creek looks in the first round. Parkview at Colquitt County. Another intriguing matchup. Tough draw for the Panthers. I'll see if they can pull something out against the undefeated Packers. All right, Peach County at Savannah Christian. Can Peach County find a way to get a tough road win? We know Savannah Christian has one of the best defenses in 3A. Richmond Hill at Grayson. That one is very intriguing for a lot of reasons, but if Grayson keeps winning, they could be heading for a clash with Buford very soon, which would be their first ever meeting. Wheeler's going to be at Buford. And then the final 3 games, Statesboro at Tucker, Sprayberry at Rome, and then South Paulding at Gainesville. There's a lot of other great games, but we'll be focused on those primarily, and then we'll have the brackets fully updated at halftime, and then afterwards, I guess a few other intriguing matchups. East Paulding at Lanier. You got Dutchtown at Northgate. That's going to be a great one. Let's see. Camden County at Newton. I wasn't sure if that one's today or tomorrow, so I'll get an update on that one. We'll be watching that. And then I think Pepperell at Mount Vernon should be a good one in Class A Division I. And then, let's see, Swainsboro at Metter should be a very close ball game. And then River Ridge at Roswell. Let's see how Roswell looks. They have a pretty favorable quadrant in that 6A bracket, which not a lot of teams in 6A can say that, but I think they do. And then Maynard Jackson will be at Jefferson. Oh yeah, and East Coweta at North Paulding. Sorry, there's just a ton of big ones. But you can tune in, check us out tonight, follow us on our social medias. I can't believe I said. All right, follow us on social media. We'll have highlights, clips, and coverage throughout the night. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Go to scoreatl.com. We have a preview of the big basketball action this weekend. I think this event, the McEachern tip-off, it's going to set the storyline for the year in Class 7A because McEachern and Grayson did not play last year. It's the number 1 and number 2 team. Whoever wins this one, that's going to be the storyline moving forward the rest of the season until they potentially meet again deep in the playoffs or the championship. So we'll have that preview up on the website, but thank you. Good luck to everyone tonight.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off. Safety violation. Unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.